This is the koha-US circulation meeting. Is it April 5th, 2022? Stumbled over that, but okay. I've checked the agenda. We don't really have anything on there. Does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss?
Our consortium was trying to decide if we should turn on ExportCircHistory system preference, but we're not quite sure what it does. Do any of you know?
I'm gonna have to check my settings on that one.
So what's the name of the system preference?
Here, we'll put it in the chat.
Oh, it's just export. That's the full. Okay. I'm looking to see if we have it enabled or not.
Oh.
It's the
ours says,
history?
Yeah, ours says don't show.
Okay.
That being said, I can go to my test server and turn it on and see what it does. My guess is it's in, well, let's see what it does.
I vaguely remember it records the circulation history of the user, and we turned it off because of privacy concerns.
Well, there's another setting that does that.
Yeah, that's a different setting. This is just the one that allows patrons to see it or not. We do have, our system is set up so that it does remember people's history, and it gives the borrower, but not staff, the ability to opt out of the history. So let me see, I'm logged into my test server. Let me log into my test OPAC, find a borrower. Yeah, maybe it'd be helpful to find a borrower that has some history.
It would probably make it easier to export if they actually had a history to export.
Yeah. Oh, but I don't know the password for this account. Let's try that again. So this borrower does have one item in their circulation history, and I've got this turned off. So let me switch it to show. And I'm assuming this is an OPAC preference. Although that might be a broad assumption. And I don't really see any difference.
Okay. It's circulation interface preference.
When in doubt, not a bad thing to do is to go to the actual documentation. Does it say anything in the Koha manual about what this does?
I have not gotten, we just went through our system preferences and we moved that one to let's research. And so this meeting happened before I was able to look at the manual, and I didn't want to have to wait a whole month before asking. So I'd asked here first. I can look. It didn't do what I thought it would do. I thought it would like export their history, but it's like I can do that whether that's on or off. So
yeah, there's a way to do that as a file, as a, let's see, I see a little export or print. Don't show. When I reload the patron, it still says export or print, so I'm not sure. And I'm not finding, so this is under circulation preferences interface. So circulation interface, allow. Yeah, it's not very well documented. The documentation is ridiculously simplistic. That's what the documentation looks like. There's no screenshots. Actually, yeah, that's a different preference. Export remove fields is a different preference. So I'm not 100% sure what this system preference does. But we haven't got it turned on, and people can still export their history from the OPAC or the staff client as a CSV file.
we're in the process of trying to make it where people can use more features in the OPAC.
Mm-hmm.
And learning what all of those things are to share with the patrons of this is things you can do. And so we thought that might be a setting we needed to turn on, but it doesn't. It's like you can do it even though the setting doesn't control exporting like I think it should. It is comforting to know that I'm not missing something that you.
Yeah, since we're not using it, I don't know 100%
Yeah.
what it does.
Okay.
So I'm wondering where it's exporting from. It says from circulation, but I don't see. Well, this patron doesn't have anything checked out. Let's change that real quick. Let's just check something out to him. That's checked out to somebody else. Okay. Okay, I think I see where you can see it. Let me share my screen again. This is on the checkout screen. I think that what it is it turns on these two buttons. Well, no, because I had it set to don't show. So what happens if I change it to show on this page? Ah, here we go. It turns on this bar down here. Export checkouts using mark format with items or mark format without items. So there you go. It's allowing you to export the mark data.
Mark. Okay. Thanks.
So I don't, and it looks like it's only in the staff client, so it's not going to affect your patrons at all. I'm not sure what the value of that would be. in a public library setting, I can imagine possibly if you were in a library where you use something like something that could read MARC format for maybe building a bibliography. I think some of those tools like RefNotes and those will read the MARC format. So I don't know. It's not something I picture myself turning on anytime soon.
Yeah, no, where I could possibly see that happening is if I needed to export it because they were changing, they were leaving the consortium and they needed that circulation data. Or is there a way to do a group?
Well, it's
export
not
off-
exporting the circulation data. It's exporting the item. It's exporting the bibliographic records of the items that the borrower has checked out in that list of history on the checkout page. So it's not doing it on the history page. It's for the checkouts page. Oh, and that's the wrong page. Yeah, I'm not sure what the value of it is. I wonder where it comes from. I wonder what the history of that system preference is. I think it's a confusingly named system preference because it's not on the history page, it's on the checkout page.
Yeah, and you're not exporting circulation history. You're just exporting items.
You're just exporting what's currently checked out.
Yeah. So there may already be a name taken for what they wanted to call it. Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
That was interesting. Did anybody else have any topics?
I have one more if no one else has one, but I want to give other people a chance. Okay, I'll share. We've been having problems with well, we don't have a lot of patrons. I have had problems logging into our OPAC using my patron account, my staff account. We're fine. We thought it was because the email address was attached to the self-checkout. So we removed that and it worked for a season and then it stopped working again. A colleague, his patron account had the same problem. And we noticed that both were set to the same patron category. Do you know if there's something in the patron categories? Is there a setting that I might not know to turn on, say allow to log into the OPAC? I'm not even sure where to look for where that would be.
I guess my first question would be define we're having trouble logging into the OPAC. What does that mean?
I can't log in.
You can't log in at all?
I get I put my credentials in, I click login, and it gives me the login screen. Like it acts like it's trying to do something. And then
does it give you the message that says you've attempted to log in too many times or anything like that?
No.
That could be a browser problem. That might not be a Koha problem. That might be a problem with your web browser.
Okay, we have noticed if I'm logged into the staff client and then I use those same credentials to log into the OPAC, I can get in. Like if like I'm logged in as a staff client into my staff client account on Koha. If I then go and use my patron account on the OPAC, it lets me in. It's really weird. It's bizarre. So you don't think it's a Koha setting? Check into browser. It could be that it's a browser. I'm not sure if we were both using Chrome or not. I could find out because that would be.
That would be my first guess, because I can't. There's nothing. If you have an account, logging into the account, there's nothing that tells patrons they can't log into their account that I can think of. It's a public catalog. You can see it whether you're logged in or not, right?
Yes.
Because there is a way to make it so that you can't access the catalog. You can't search the catalog if you're not logged in. But I can't think of anything that would make it so that there's no system preference I know of that prevents people from logging into the catalog. What I would suspect is that there's maybe a cookie or something that's being saved in by your browser. That's, you know, that's all I can think of. I think it's more of my suspicion is it's a browser problem and not a Koha problem.
Okay.
I use Firefox, and I tell Firefox that whenever I log out, it forgets all my history. It deletes all the cookies. It deletes all of the saved internet history. It deletes everything. So every time I start Firefox, it clears the cache. Everything gets deleted every time I close Firefox. Because I don't want all that stuff saved. So that'd be my suspicion. Do you have whatever browser you're using? Are you telling it to remember passwords? Are you telling the browser to remember your usernames and passwords?
Yes.
To log in? That's probably the problem right there.
Okay.
There's probably some.
Okay.
I have seen before where people tell the browser to remember their username and their password, and then they go to log in, and maybe their password's changed and the browser doesn't want to forget the old password, or their username has changed and the browser keeps trying to put in the old username. So that would be my first step, is to clear all those that's one of the easiest things to do, is just tell the browser, forget everything, go back to a factory reset and start over again. The problem is that you end up losing all of those passwords if you don't have them stored somewhere.
Yeah.
Then you're going to lose all those. So,
Right.
but that would be my suspicion, is that there's a saved password somewhere in your browser that doesn't agree with you logging in there using a different password.
Okay. I will try that and get my colleague to try that and see if.
Yeah.
It's a mystery. We thought we upgraded to 2105, and we thought that would solve whatever it was and it didn't.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we need to fix this before we tell patrons. You should go to the OPAC.
I try to encourage people that are using the browser to save their passwords to switch to something like LastPass or Dashlane or OnePass, where the passwords are stored. The passwords are stored, but they're stored outside of the browser, because LastPass is just a plugin that works with Firefox or Google or other browsers. The phone app actually has its own browser, but that way the passwords aren't being stored in the browser. They're being stored in a separate app that goes across platforms. So that, because I have seen problems with, I've had people that have used the autofill feature so that it tries to fill in website data like addresses and names and stuff, and there's sometimes sometimes those fields get interfered with. So I don't like the browser's built-in ability to remember things because it always screws things up. Well, not always, but
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
sure.
Gotta thank you, Lauren, man. You're keeping this meeting pretty lively. Anybody else have anything?
I'll be brave and ask a question.
Go for it.
Okay, so we currently circulate Wi-Fi hotspots for a rental fee, and you can pick how long you want it. Next fiscal year, we're switching to free Wi-Fi hotspots. Yay. But we want them to act as much like all the other items as possible. So 2 weeks, 4 automatic renewals, easy peasy. But with hotspots, the patrons are wanting consistent access. So what's going to happen is they're going to check out the hotspot, immediately place the hold on the next one, therefore preventing their own potential renewals. Does anyone else circulate hotspots and have a good circ rule set for that, or any other item where they want consistent access?
I have a library, it's Lauren keeps asking questions, and I'm the one that's answering all of them. I have 50 libraries, and about 10 of them check out hotspots. And one of the libraries was recently having a problem because I think they had 10 hotspots, and they had a separate bibliographic record for each hotspot.
Oh my.
And so the borrower would, and they had like 50 bazillion holds on them. And it's because they had 10 separate bibliographic records that they had 50 bazillion holds, because their one patron would check out hotspot number 1, and then they would go in and put a request, because there's so many requests on all these. Then they would put a request on hotspot number 2, hotspot number 3, hotspot number 4, hotspot number 5. And so that was one of the things I said, is just put them all on one bibliographic record, and then limit the number of requests per borrower to 1 per record, so that the borrower can only have 1 request on that bibliographic record at a time, so they can check it out and then place a hold on it. That doesn't quite solve your problem, because they're still going to be able to place holds on it once they have it checked out. I'm not sure if there's a way. Is there a way to tell Koha that if they have it checked out, they can't put a hold on it? Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. But that solved a big part of their problem. The issues that we have with hotspots at my libraries are that somebody will check them out. We have a couple libraries that have like 5 to 10 of these things, and people will check them out and then they never return them. And they call the phone company and tell them to deactivate it. And then, so it's worthless to them if they don't return it and get it back in the system. And then they get turned over to a collection agency because but that's the biggest problem that our libraries have, is that people check them out and they never return them, even after they're billed for them. And so that's why I have a lot of libraries that don't use them, that they had them for a while and they decided it wasn't worth their time and effort to try to manage them. So.
Yeah, I think we're kind of hoping that this program will just slowly die, because we've hated it the entire time. It's been a big headache.
So that's our story with that one particular library. But I think we've had as many as 15 to 20 libraries that have had them. But I think we're down now to, I think, only it's less than 10, probably, maybe 10 at the most, that are still using them out of 50.
There is a system preference for allow holds on patron possessions, and it's allow or don't allow, but it doesn't look like you could limit it to a specific item type. I think it'd be across the board.
haven't looked at that one. I'll check into it. Thank you.
That's how it shows up in the system preferences.
I suppose what you do is you run a report to see how many people have holds on things that they currently have checked out and see if it's an issue. Because if it isn't an issue, then you can turn that on and nobody's even gonna notice.
Yay, a strategy. Thank you.
So we have hotspots here at Pueblo, and we only have them broken into 2 records. The problem that we've been having is that we have so many hotspots that if we get to that maximum item count on the record, and it slows everything down and grinds it to a halt. What we've been doing to solve that is just creating a dead record, and anything that's discarded or lost or whatever gets transferred to that dead record. And I've volunteered to do the hotspots at our place. So if anything is stolen, lost, or damaged, I report it to our IT department, who shuts it off. And now the user has a great paperweight. And one of the things that we did notice, or we got a recall from it was Verizon, that one of their models all had to be recalled because their batteries explode. Yeah. And I've got one actually in my desk. It looks like a hockey puck, but I don't know what the model number is on it. I'm gonna see if I can pop it open and find out. But yeah, I've gotten a couple back that their batteries is expanded to the size of like a cigarette. Usually they're like, a couple of cards packed together, but it's the Ippolis Jetpack from Verizon. So yeah, that was an interesting project, trying to get all those hundreds of Verizon hotspots back. So that was fun. Anybody else have any hotspots or horror stories or anything else they would like to discuss? So I'm going to open it up just a couple of more minutes. If we don't have anything else to discuss, I'll end the meeting early. But conversation has been very lively. Usually we're pretty chill. And thanks a lot, George, for all your help on answering those questions.
Well, I'm happy I could be here. The last couple of meetings I've missed it because I've misinterpreted the calendar, or the calendar has been wrong. So
Yeah, I have that problem with the admin meeting. I'm always an hour late. So
I'm trying to look to see if there are any videos that Christopher and I have recorded lately that relate to circulation.
well, if anybody doesn't have any more topics, then we can close this down. And thank you all for gathering together, and definitely come back and please bring topics. This is always interesting to hear them. So y'all have a great afternoon or morning. Take care.
See you later.